Okay, so I'm making this video for chemistry. I've gotten a couple questions, and so because I think that some of you are going to have the same questions, I'm just going to answer them in the video. Hopefully this helps. If not, tell me that I suck, and then we'll try a different way to improve on that. Okay, so first question is about the quiz that we took. Sorry. This is interesting. There we go. All right. So first question is about the quiz in cognity that we took. So it was complete the test, confused about question number 7. I actually got this from a couple people. It was the amount of CO2 in the air. They chose only fossil fuels, increased amount of CO2. We get that we also breathe out CO2, but wouldn't that be minimal? The reasoning was more humans will respire more and burn more fossil fuels, and both of these processes will produce more carbon dioxide and also use up more oxygen. Also is implying that because more humans are born, they will eventually burn more fossil fuels. So that was a weird question to ask and hope you could explain better. So I explained it, but I just wanted to kind of go over it a little bit. Think about it in terms of the chemical reactions, okay? So we combine carbohydrates like sugar and other stuff like that with oxygen to produce carbon dioxide and water, right? So we're kind of burning that ourselves. Basically, what we're doing is what plants do is they take carbon dioxide out of the air and put it into structures. And then we take those structures, destroy them, and then put them back out into the air. Or we take them from creatures who have taken them out, put some back into the air, and then put some back into their own structures, and we take them. Anyway, basically what we're doing is we're taking carbon out of structures and putting it back into the atmosphere. And that's what we do when we eat. Not just like, hey, we're eating and then we're releasing all this carbon dioxide when we eat, but we consume the food, and then eating really is digesting that food, and then the carbon dioxide goes out. Plus, there's also, yes, when a human is born into this world and society, they will not only breathe out a whole lot of excess carbon dioxide, but they will also utilize things which will increase the amount of CO2 that is put into the air. Now, burning fossil fuels is the one that we talk about more often because, well, when we talk about putting fossil fuels into the air, putting carbon dioxide into the air, not having too many more babies is kind of a taboo subject, and so we kind of shy away from that one. But in essence, if I am doing a certain amount of work, right, then it requires a certain amount of energy, and that energy comes from chemical bonds, okay? And so if I, sorry, I'm gonna switch back to this. If I drive a car 1 mile, it takes a certain amount of energy to move that vehicle, to move that weight 1 mile, which is why if I have a heavy load in that car, I'm taking your mom to school or something like that, then I'm going to expend more gas because I'm moving a whole lot more weight from point A to point B. So I would burn a certain amount of gas to get that energy from that exothermic reaction. However, if I was to push that car with my own body, so instead of driving the car, if I was to get out and push behind your mom, then I would have to expel basically the same amount of energy. If I'm going to expel the same amount of energy, I have to get that same amount out. And so therefore, I'm going to be expelling kind of a similar amount of CO2 into the atmosphere than I would if I was driving. So pushing that car, it's going to be a lot harder for me, obviously, than driving a mile, but pushing that car a mile is going to expend about the same amount of energy. And so therefore, be comparable in the amount of CO2 it emits. And so, yes, breathing does put a lot of CO2 into the atmosphere. It's just that we don't talk about it as a way of stopping CO2 being put in the air because it's kind of rude to tell somebody to stop breathing, okay, even if it might be a good idea for some. All right, so next question. Hopefully that was enough. If not, email me and I'll send you a pre-written something that I've wrote about it that will probably explain it no better than I just did. Okay, so the next thing, I'm going to share the screen with you. This question, as you can see, comes from the first review session of the AP review that College Board is doing. Okay, so this question was at the end of the first one, so the one that they did Monday. It's the question for section 1.3, elemental composition of pure substances. Okay, so a sample of a compound that contains only the elements carbon, hydrogen, and nitrogen, CH and N, is completely burned in oxygen, so in O2, to produce 44.0 grams of carbon dioxide, 45 grams of water, and some NO2. Okay, determine the empirical formula of the compound. So the first thing is remembering what empirical formula is. So empirical formula, remember, is our lowest ratio of the elements. So I want the lowest ratio of carbon, hydrogen, and nitrogen possible. Now, the first thing I'm going to need to do, let's see, I can stop sharing. The first thing I did this one on the board. Okay, the first thing that we're going to need to do is write a chemical equation. So I've got an unknown amount of CH and N, right? An unknown substance, but I know that it's CH and N, and it's combined with oxygen, and that turns into 44 grams of carbon dioxide, 45 grams of H2O, and some unknown amount of NO2. Now, this is going to be the part that's really confusing for you, okay, is the unknown amount of NO2. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to need the molar ratio, right, because that's the whole point of this. The empirical formula is the molar ratio, okay, what is combined in that molecule, okay, in what proportions, okay. So I take these right here. Okay, these are my molecular weights, right? So carbon is 12.01 grams per mole, hydrogen is 1.01 grams per mole, nitrogen is 14.01 grams per mole, and oxygen is 16.00 or 15.998 grams per mole. Okay, now these you can obviously find in your handy dandy white book if you were smart enough to check that out at the beginning of the school year. If you were not smart enough to check this out, guess what? Google knows. Okay. Also, if you are, well, I'll get to that at the end of the video, and then you'll get to see if you get to know what I'm talking about. Okay. So anyway, moving back. So these are the molecular weights. Okay. So that means that the molecular weight of CO2 is 16 times 2, which is 32, plus 12, which is 44. I'm 44. So 44.01. 44 divided by 44.01 is 1. So therefore I have 1 mole of carbon dioxide, okay? So whatever I burnt here, I made 1 mole of carbon dioxide, okay? Here, let's see, hydrogen is 1.01. I'm gonna add that to 16. So I'm gonna get 18, right? Because there's 2 hydrogens, so that's 2.02 plus oxygen, which is 16, so 18.02. Okay, 45 divided by 18.02 is around 2.5. And so, 2.5 moles, but I didn't get 2.5 moles. I got 2.5 moles of water, but I'm not looking for water right now. What I'm looking for is hydrogen, okay? It didn't matter for carbon dioxide because I only had 1 carbon in here, okay? So 1 mole of carbon dioxide is still 1 mole of carbon. It's 2 moles of oxygen, but it is 1 mole of carbon. Here, however, 2.5 moles of, right, 2.5 moles of water, right, I'm going to need to multiply that by 2 because there's a little 2 there in H2O. And that's going to get me 5 moles. So that means that my carbon to hydrogen is in a 1:5 ratio. Now, some of you are just like, yes, Mr. McCarthy, I remember that from stoichiometry. I know that. But what about the nitrogen? What about the nitrogen? Well, this is where there's a problem, okay? And this problem, they're working on the AP test. It's going to be a lot shorter. And so this means that hopefully they're working really hard on it, but this is going to be a problem in that test. Okay, and hopefully one that they're going to recognize. I alerted them to this. I was like, hey, just in case you weren't aware, in the end of this video, there was this question. It's a little ambiguous if it doesn't have the multiple choice. This was supposed to be a multiple choice question, and it's written in AP as a multiple choice question. So it's supposed to be multiple choice, and these were your answers that, oh goodness, that was bad. Okay, these are your answers that were supposed to be divided. So A was CH2N, B was CH5N, C was C2H5N, and D was C3H3N, in case you can't read my writing and with my low quality camera, sorry. All right, maybe since school is going to be closed for longer, I'll invest in a more high definition one. Anyway, so now obviously because of this becomes a much easier question, okay? If you were able to get at least some of the question right, you were able to eliminate A and D pretty quickly because it's obviously not a 1-to-1 ratio, okay? So you know it's not D because carbon and hydrogen are not a 1-to-1 ratio, and it's not a 1-to-2 ratio in that. The one that would really throw you for a loop is C, and that's because it's C2H5. And if you didn't realize that it's 2 moles of hydrogen, then you would have gotten a 2 to 5 because you would have multiplied 2.5 and the 1 to get 2 moles of this to every 5 moles of that. And so this was your distractor. These were 2 ones. If you had no idea what you were doing, C was your distractor and B is the correct answer. Nitrogen wouldn't have been a problem for you because you can see that it's a 1 for all of those, so it didn't matter. Okay, you know that nitrogen's going to be 1. But in a written question like this, which is going to be for your AP test, it's going to be a write-on. It's not going to be a multiple choice because there is no more multiple choice. They will be doing this. They'll be transferring some of these multiple choice questions into write-on. And hopefully they'll take it on. It's going to be a much shorter test, and so they're going to have to, there's going to be a team of people working on this. This was the very first, this question came from the very first AP review when they went back and started doing them. And so they'd only been saying that they were going to do them for 3 days. I mean, this guy had very little time to prepare. And so I'm sure that's why it was like this. They're not even going to tell us when those test dates are going to be until the 7th. And so they've got a lot, for another week. They've got more time. And I alerted them to it just in case they didn't. Okay, but yeah, so hopefully this helps answer. You should have gotten the carbon and hydrogen in a 1-to-5 ratio regardless. And where it really tripped you up was that it was asking about the empirical formula for CHN, right, for this. And it didn't give you any way to get N, which you wouldn't have been able to figure out. So yeah, it would have thrown you for a loop. Okay, now, so what I teased for earlier, oh goodness, I just hit that. Sorry. Anyway, quarter 3. I'm allowed to change quarter 3 grades. I'm not allowed to do anything for quarter 4. Okay, because of this, so if we do go back to school, which who knows now, we won't do that until May if we do, okay, because the governor just extended today until April 30th. So if we do go back to school, it'll be in May. And then they'll open up quarter 4 grade book. But right now it's closed to me. I can't do anything to it. And they would slap me on the wrist even if I tried. But they did open up quarter 3. What this means is that your quarter 3 grade has the very high possibility of being your semester grade. Some of you are happy with this. Some of you not so much. What I am allowed to do is I'm allowed to improve your quarter 3 grade. The way I'm allowed to do this is by accepting late work. New work, up in the air on that. And I haven't assigned much new work because of this. Most of the new work I've assigned is just reviewing for your tests. And for IB, it's just like, oh, we'll try to play catch up next year, right? We're playing catch up all this year. Why not extend that into next year as well, right? So for AP, worry about the test, don't worry. Study for your test. Do those AP reviews that I'm posting every day. Those videos to that, those are really crucial. Keep on working on that. I know you've got a bunch of work for other teachers and they got yelled at today for doing it. Just know that in a meeting today with all the administration, principal and stuff like that, they did like ream a couple teachers, just like it is rude, and it is like they were just ripping into some of these teachers for giving too much work. And I was like, it's not me. Okay. So anyway, yeah, I can't grade anything for fourth quarter, but if you go into Infinite Campus, you look at all your missing assignments, do those missing assignments, you get those to me, I can improve your grade. I cannot take a C to an A. I cannot take a D to an A. I cannot take an F to an A. But I can take an F to a D. I can take a D to a C. I can take a C to a B, and I can take a B to an A. And I can take an A and shove it where the sun don't shine, because if you're doing late work and you've already got an A, just stop. Okay? I mean, do your light work if you really want to have practice and stuff like that. But don't turn it into me or I'll drop your grades. I'm not allowed to. But I'll want to, and know that. Anyway, so I do have enriching grades, enriching assignments that I can give you. And that's basically what I've been doing, is giving you those enriching assignments, which is basically just review your work, do the best you can. This is a tough time. I know that it's not the easiest thing to do to study from home. It's not the easiest thing to do without a schedule or anything like that. And some of you are like really important about your schedules. Try to keep to a schedule. Don't wake up at noon every day. But guess what? Remember, if you were listening, paying attention to my class earlier on in the year, remember how I said that, hey, teenagers aren't supposed to get up that early? Like, for some reason, the biological clock, like science has proven, the biological clock kind of turns back a little bit for your teenage years. And so really, you shouldn't be in school until like 10. Guess what? Do it. Okay. Say that, show your parents this video, like and subscribe. Please don't. Show your parents this video and like, hey, parents, yeah, if they want to start later, that's probably good for them. That's scientifically proven that it is good for them to stay in bed later. Okay. Not to work until maybe 9 or 10 in the morning. Your brain's just not prepared for it. So now you can utilize that time. Guess you should still be doing the same amount of work, but you should just start later and work a little bit later than you're used to on your schedule. That'd be fine. But don't stay in bed until like 1 or 2. That's just going to get you depression. Okay. Try to stick to a schedule, do a little bit of something every day, do something active, clean, do stuff like that. Keep your room neat. You can show your parents this part too. Okay. Keep your room clean. If you keep your room cluttery, that's just going to mess everything up. Okay. I know it sounds like I'm your parent, but whatever. Okay. Also, I am switching to Google Hangouts because they said that I'm not allowed to do Zoom anymore because Zoom is corrupted or has some sort of security concerns. So starting tomorrow, or whenever you see this video, I'll have already started. Starting April 2nd, I will be doing Google Hangouts instead. There's a link in Google Classroom for that. And that will be just a 9 to 11 every single day. If you've got questions, jump on there, ask me then. If you can't do that, if you can't ask me in person, then email me. I will try to get back and I'll do something like this again. Hopefully this helped you. If it didn't, then oh well. If it did, then cool. Okay. Have fun.